For those of you who I'm yet to meet, my name is Ian Irving. I work at the BBC, that's the British Broadcasting Corporation, in the Children's and Education Department as a senior data analyst focusing on SEO and ASO. I've been doing SEO for around 10 years now, and I've been really focusing in on ASO for a little over a year. I'd really like to stress that although there are a lot of similarities between SEO and ASO, maybe because they're both three-letter acronyms, they're by no means the same. So I understand we have a very cosmopolitan, a very international audience here. So I'll just take a moment to explain who the BBC is, what we do, and some of the unique challenges we face when it comes to the promotion of our apps. So the BBC is the British Broadcasting Corporation. We're the world's oldest national broadcaster and the largest broadcaster in the world by number of employees. We're the state broadcaster of the UK, the United Kingdom. We have international news, terrestrial television channels, radio stations, a huge web portfolio, and some really, really big apps. Hopefully, all of you in the UK have BBC Sounds and BBC iPlayer installed. All our services are free at the point of consumption because we're funded through a special arrangement known as the license fee. This means all our apps are free. Now, I do consult internally on the big four app products, which are BBC News, BBC Sport, BBC iPlayer, and BBC Sounds. But my day-to-day focus is really on the four core children's apps. And these are Playtime Island, which is a simple games offering, just so children can play and enjoy themselves. Get Creative, which unsurprisingly is the creative offering where kids can paint, draw, and build. And then Go Explore, which is the more educational offering. So it's similar to Playtime Island in that it's games focused, but with a more educational edge. And then Storytime, which is an interactive storytelling experience, the main goal of which is to build children's love of books, although not explicitly teach them to read. Taken together, every week, around 20% of 0 to 6-year-olds in the app use one of these four products. Yeah, and in lockdown, it went as nearly as high as 1 in 4. So on an individual app basis, some of our competitors may just edge us out. But when it comes to a group, to a portfolio of apps, no one else in the UK has such a persistently high reach across the 0 to 6 demographic. From a user acquisition perspective, one of the most important things to note about the children's apps is that we don't use any kind of paid acquisition. We rely solely on organic installs. There's a number of reasons for this. Most of them are due to internal political reasons and issues around PR. But it does mean that we heavily rely on organic SEO to ensure that we're able to keep that reach where it is. And I'm sure you can understand that given recent conditions where screen time has soared and the relationship between parents and the devices and the amount of time that children are spending on devices has intensified, we're really starting to see competition in that area increase. So today, I'd just like to share with you 5 things that I've learned whilst managing this portfolio. I hope you'll find it interesting, and hopefully, maybe you'll be able to take away something from it which helps you with your own organic ASO. So number 1 is Amazon. Is it an underrated platform? So, of course, when we hear ASO, the first 2 places that our mind goes to is the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Now, but it might surprise you if I told you that nearly 20% of our installs across our portfolio come from the Amazon App Store. And on some occasions, even though it only accounts for 20% of installs, 40% of our users are from the Amazon App Store. There are 2 main reasons for this. The first one is the Kindle Fire, and the second one is Amazon Free Time. So if you're not aware of it, the Fire is a tablet computer from Amazon with a $49.99 price point. And this means it makes its way into lots of small sticky hands that might not be trusted with more expensive kinds of devices, more expensive devices. So I would definitely say that if the demographic that you're targeting uses lower end, cheaper devices, there's probably going to be a large chunk of those that are going to be using the Kindle Fire, and it's definitely worth thinking about getting on the Amazon App Store. The other thing I want to talk about is Amazon Free Time, which was recently renamed to Amazon Kids Plus. This is a subscription service for ages 3 to 12, $2.99 monthly, and it allows them access to a created group of radio stations, audiobooks and experiences, and other apps. Amazon doesn't supply us with the download figures, and the Amazon App Store is generally light with the analytics that it supplies to us. But we estimate it's about a 50-50 split of users that are downloading through the App Store and ones that are coming through the subscription-based Free Time. So again, if your target demo is under 12 years old, that may be something that you want to really start to consider. As to ASO on the Amazon App Store, the top, if you search for it on Google, the top ranking result is from 2019. So there's nowhere near the same volume of information there is about optimizing on the other two app stores. With my SEO hat on, I think there's a really juicy keyword opportunity if anybody wants to make a Amazon App Store ASO 2021 guide. But in technical terms, it's more similar to the App Store than it is to Google Play. The index fields are title, developer, and a keywords field. The keywords field are 30 individual keywords, which means for us, we were able to put in a lot more of our longer branded names like Teletubbies, Swashbuckle, which we wouldn't have been able to fit in the Apple App Store due to the character limits. They do seem to be less strict in what goes into those fields than the other stores, although I'm not advocating any kind of black hat processes. Reviews are still really important for search ranking and conversion. They do have both category and featured lists. Getting featured can be a little bit harder, and I think Amazon seems to favor apps which will also generate a revenue stream for them. But they are open to being pitched similar to Apple, and we've had some really interesting successes in that area. So number 2 is understanding your audience's seasonality. So the first thing I want to make clear when I talk about seasonality, it doesn't necessarily mean adding snowflakes to your assets, putting your main character in a Halloween costume, or giving them a pair of sunglasses. Every industry has its own seasonality, be that Valentine's Day for dating apps, tax season for finance apps, or sports apps, for example, have an extreme degree of seasonality depending which leagues are doing what, which championships are progressing, etc., etc. It isn't just a date in the calendar. It's when things are happening offline for your audience and they're experiencing an emotional shift. So it's not just a simple design change. It's been an essential part of our ASO and user acquisition strategy. Now, having just said it's not about putting a Halloween costume on everything, the audience I work for are the under 6s, and the most emotionally engaging parts of the year for them are Easter, Halloween, and Christmas. So we do change the icons regularly throughout the year across all the apps. We turn on the spooky theme inside the app, and then we have unique games that come out at Christmas and things of that nature. And what we found is that the more that we align the seasonality across the entire user experience, from the icon to the store assets to the in-store experience, the more time spent increases, conversion rate goes up, the KPIs that we care about, they increase. And again, the other thing I want to say is that it's very easy for UX or design to get lost in the idea of putting a pumpkin on everything, but it's important to have clearly defined KPIs so you can track what the impact of the seasonality you're injecting is having, and making sure that is actually resonating with your audience and not just what you think it is. So yeah, 3, A/B test everything and then test it again. So Full disclosure, the only A/B testing software that we have is the one that's built into the Google Play Store. You know, it's questions around tooling and with the size of our app portfolio and everything else. It's just not cost effective for us to implement that at this point. But we do find that when we test things on the Google Play Store and then roll that out to the other stores, we see a similar increase in performance. It's a widely known fact in A/B testing that drastic changes in assets allow you to reach quicker conclusions to whether that's a change that you want to make. But that comes with a lot of resource in terms of creating the assets. So interspersed between our larger, more resource intensive A/B testing, you know, where we'll make major changes to our in-store assets, we also do a lot of micro testing. So we aim for every single one of the apps to at least have a micro test going at the time. So here's an example of one of those. Now, can you spot the difference? Yeah, the only difference is that the eyes have moved. Now, this may seem inconsequential, but that actually produced a 6% increase in installs. Now, 6% may not seem like a lot, but if you're running these tests continually, then there's always a chance that you're going to discover something like this. And we've had similar successes with altering fonts, altering background colors. And again, very, very low investment in resources, cumulatively over time, very, very big rewards. It's also something very good, which often, you know, you don't have to involve UX, you don't have to involve design. It can just be done quickly by yourself, very, very quick. Number 4 is the importance of speaking as your users do. So when I first arrived at the BBC, obviously we're something of a British institution, and there was a culture of wanting to be seen that we were using proper language and everything, and that was until we made this discovery. So which term would you target? This is for the United Kingdom, kids games versus children's games. Kids is considered an Americanism, and we didn't use it much, but for obvious, it's clear the language that our audience is using. So what we found was that, you know, we had to come down from our ivory tower, go where our audience was, find out what the language, find out what language they used, what moved them, and what they were searching for, and then shift to use that as our approach. So this is also critically important for informing your A/B testing, because again, you can use that to see if what you think the audience is after is what they're actually after. And then number 5 is that competitors are often the key to success. As I hope I've made clear in the brief amount of time I had, I believe that understanding how your audience thinks, how they feel, and what devices they use are critical to optimizing your user acquisition. I've just covered how we had a blind spot that no one in our team was aware of. And to quote ex-US Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, there are things we don't know that we don't know. And however, even though you might not know them, your competitors might. And by keeping a very close eye on them, they might just give away what they've learned, which you haven't. For all 4 of our apps, we've got a short list of our most significant competitors. In our case, these fall into 3 clearly delineated categories. So we've got experienced competitors. These are apps which provide a similar experience to a similar user experience to our demographic. For example, PTI, our games experience, directs completely with a handful of other apps that are similar games aggregators for the under 6s. Brand competitors, these are apps which might not offer the exact same kinds of experience, but they are brands that are also competing for our audience's attention, and we often find that they are an inspiration for what we might want to undertake. And then this might be slightly more niche to the children's app space, but there are a number of extremely niche apps which focus purely on camping one particular keyword. And that we found that's a great signal for us to find keywords that we may have otherwise overlooked. And so categorizing your competitors and keeping a close watch on them, again, feeds into that A/B testing loop. And we've really found it keeps us on our toes. And I'm also a firm believer in the quote from Oscar Wilde, talent borrows, genius steals, which he himself stole from T.S. Eliot. So yeah, if you'd like to dive deeper about any of those 5 things I've covered today, I can't recommend, I couldn't give a stronger recommendation to the Advanced App Store Optimization Guide produced by Ficho. It's about 300 pages long. I often throw it at anybody in the BBC that comes and asks me, how can I do ASO on one of the other apps? For the Amazon App Store, I really recommend how to do ASO for the Amazon App Store, which was done by Antoli over at AppFollow. And the thing that really changed my mind and got me thinking in the right way about seasonality was how to get App Store seasonality right, from Store Maven by Esther Shantaz and Nathan Levine. So yeah, that's 5 things I learned during my time at the BBC. I hope you found it useful, and I think we've got a little bit of time left if anybody has any questions.
Great. Okay, thanks, Ian. Maybe do you want to stop, end your screen share, and then we can do a bit of Q&A. So we do have some questions. Luckily, we started 5 minutes earlier than we were supposed to. So we got a bit more time than we planned. So that's good. So we've got, that was great though, Ian. And well, there's a lot of questions I had, but we've got quite a few from the floor. So I'll just field them if that's all right. So we have a question from Caton, and he's saying, how does the Amazon store localization system work?
We only well, due to several legal reasons, we only offer our apps within the UK. But my understanding of it is that it operates on a very, very similar way to Google does. So, you know, there are individual localization options within the store. It's unfortunately, it's not something that I'm particularly well versed in, I'm afraid.
Got it. We're UK only. So Alina is asking, do you apply A/B testing results from Google Play to other stores? Did you ever have a different result after you applied the winner onto the App Store?
As I said, yeah, we do apply the stores from Google to the other ones. Every time we've done it, we've seen a positive increase. I suspect it's because we're mainly altering the in-store assets to make them more appealing to our, you know, to the child-focused demographic. And generally, I think that demographic is seeking very, very similar things across different stores. So yeah.
Okay, and Andrea Areco is asking on point 3. Oh yeah, a couple of people are asking this. You showed 2 images. You know, people wanted to know which of the 2, is it left or right? The eyes facing that actually did the uplift.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. So it was the eyes facing, Right.
I'm amazed it was such a big uplift. I mean, are you very confident of that? You've definitely stripped out any other, you know, I don't know, seasonality or, you know.
Well, that's exactly why on that point it says A/B test it, then A/B test it again, because we redid that one 4 times because nobody would believe us about the level of the uplift. So yeah, again, and that I'm not sure how many other people experienced this, but within the BBC internally, if you want to change anything, you've got to prove it extensively to stakeholders before you can proceed. So yeah, multiple tests is an essential for us.
Great. And Runak Miranda is asking, do you use heat maps in your testing?
We don't know, no.
All right. Okay. And Sinella is asking, what about sort of gaming versus non-gaming on Amazon? I guess, yeah, is it particularly good? I guess it's particularly good for kids, you're saying. Is it particularly good for gaming?
Yeah, well, I think so. Again, it's sort of like any demographic or audience that you think is going to be skewed to having low-end cheap devices. So I noticed that there is an incredible number of like gambling apps and all that sort of thing on there as well. So it does seem that it's a very, very rich ground for gaming, I think, yeah. And definitely not just, obviously we're focusing on the 60s, but I think under 21s.
I mean, I'm amazed that that's that 40% coming from Amazon. And
yeah. At Christmas time, usually by a clear margin, the newest Amazon Fire is the biggest device. So I think it's huge potential.
So I get the kind of kids, yeah, they've got the cheap kind of Kindle, the Fire, you know, tablet. I mean, so potentially games is another vertical. Are there any other sort of verticals you think have potential there, or?
Well, I mean, it's kind of allied to games, but I think a lot of the Storytime, which is one of our other apps, isn't really a game. You know, it's like an interactive reading experience. And I think, you know, other products which are other products which are of that nature, you know, some of the teaching and educational apps as well, I think they have great potential in that space. Yeah.
Right. And Simona is asking, did you get any support from Amazon? Do you have a dedicated account manager on the App Store?
We don't have a dedicated person, but we have just made a few months ago we made contact with somebody that we now pitch to in the same way to get featured spots, the same way that we do for Apple. And that was relatively easy to find, you know, just through contact.
Right. And Jessica was asking about you know, advertising on Facebook for kids, but you're saying that you couldn't do that anyway.
Yeah, and it's for that exact reason, because obviously we're very, very sensitive about where anything with the BBC on it appears. So it's one of the reasons why we do use paid for some of the big four apps, but we don't do anything on Google. It's only on Apple. Because we don't have the level of control that's required for PR and editorial reasons.
Just for kids, right?
No, that's for the other four main products. Right. We don't do any paid for the children's.
Got it. Okay, so as you say, you're very dependent on these organic channels, and you know, great. You've managed to make such a success of them. Well. Great. Well, I think that, oh no, here's another Bin. Well, I'm interested. I'm glad Bin Dang is here because he actually did a talk at Promotion Summit Berlin on seasonality.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of the first sort of talk. Yeah, you know, it's been mentioned before. He did the whole talk on seasonality, and here he is today asking some questions. So that's great. Not sure if you could share this, has been, but on Amazon App Store, how big is the search traffic / install share compared to browse and compared to the totals for your apps?
Well, as I say, the analytics that we get from Amazon are very light. So the only thing they really supply to us is how many installs you got. We do see that when we get featured, there's a significant install spike. You know, maybe gives you an extra 30% on top of what you're getting off Amazon anyway. And as I said, for us, about 20% of our installs are coming from Amazon, which is obviously, you know, even if it got you another 5 to 10%, it would be worth going there, I think. So
great. So Bin is in e-commerce, I think. So we'll see. Maybe you can come back and do another talk on that. Great. Well, thanks so much today, Ian. That was a perfect start to our day, and we've got a lot more to come with many of the people you mentioned. Actually, I think up next we have the feature guys and girls are going to be talking about ASO, and we have a talk from AppFollow. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll see some of the influences behind that great talk later on today. But
Well, I'm very excited for the new edition of the book.
Great. Okay, yeah, someone's saying in the chat there's a new, that's right. I think we had, yeah, they're working with App Tweak. Is that right? Yeah, I think we had, yeah, Simon. That's Simon was saying that's coming out soon. Great. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ian, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you around later. That was brilliant. Thank you.
That's great. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.